Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and I already made an actually useful and realistic practical guide to the pre-release, so now let's get crazy. I'm taking all 36 Planeswalkers in the set and reviewing them in the context of the pre-release, because a lot of people are just going to say, Planeswalker, on color, throw it in. Some of these are horribly irrelevant, and some of these are like god tier crazy that will win you every single game. So being able to tell the difference when pre-releases run completely different than fully planned out constructed, that's a very important thing to do. But to be practical, I'm starting with the lowest rarity and then moving up because your odds of pulling them are higher. So first there's Angrath. He's totally awesome. Throw him in. Just kidding. So he is a 4-cost 5 loyalty. That's pretty darn good. Remember, tearing down loyalty is going to be a lot harder than it normally would be in a constructed match. So creatures you control have menace, that's huge, but I mean, unless you specifically can put them in a flood deck, which remember, you can't really plan your deck that well. You're going to leave them wide open, but still, you can just swing with one creature and force them to block with 2 and leave the rest on defense, so that's an amazing ability. And then his -2 is a mass 2, so just keep creating 2/2s or keep putting counters on your existing 2/2. You can do it twice, so that's like decent. At least he can bring out his own blocker. I'd probably give this one maybe like a 7 out of 10. I'm already regretting saying that. I don't want to rate all these, but I'm probably going to. So next up, we've got Arlen, the werewolf herself. She's a 6-cost 7 loyalty in green, but remember, you can't arrange ramp very well. So that is high. I mean, but then again, the games are slower and they get to higher mana amounts. But she's definitely late game. You do not want her on your opening hand. So each creature you control that's a wolf or werewolf enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 on it. So that will never benefit you in any way, except for her -2, created 2/2 green wolf creature token, or as I like to call it, a 3/3. She can do it 3 times, once per turn. That's not bad, but I don't think you're going to win the game with a 3/3 under any circumstances. They might be kind of nice, and you could leave them on blocking while, I don't know, something actually good attacks, but boy, for 6 mana, she ain't going to win the game, and there's a lot of 6-cost stuff that will win the game, so, 4 out of 10 at best. Next up, we got Ashy Larry. And clickety clack, that's 5 loyalty for 3 mana, and it's fully hybrid. So don't say, oh, well, I'm running blue, but I'm not running black. Who cares? Doesn't matter. So spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause their controller to search the library. Useless. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard, then exile each opponent's graveyard. Useless. 0 out of 10. This would barely be worth sleeving to put in your sideboard. Next up, we got Daffa Magic. So 3-cost 3 loyalty. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 1 or fewer cards in hand, it deals 2 damage to them. That will be relevant. I mean, people tend to drag the games up, but they also tend to keep cards in hand more often. And the thing about this one is they could just artificially hold a land and it wouldn't really harm them that much. But -1, target player discards a card, and you can do that, I guess, technically 3 times, but I'd recommend 2. Early game, you can trim down their hand, which, I mean, I'm sure they got a ton of extraneous useless cards, but you never know. And late game, you can just absolutely destroy them, force them to start holding stuff so they don't just lose. I mean, this is not bad. It's not amazing, but for 3, it's pretty good. I think I'd give this also a 7 out of 10. Next up, we got Dovan, which, by the way, Mark Rosewater got so many messages on multiple social media platforms, so many questions from the community about if the person who drew this artwork screwed up and gave him 5 fingers, because clear as day he has 5 fingers in the low-res version, that he tweeted out the full-res version. Basically, he does have 6 fingers. It's just really subtle and misleading and doesn't lend itself well to being downsampled, I guess. So no, they didn't actually make the mistake. So anyway, 3-cost hybrid, which is wonderful. 5 loyalty, wonderful. Artifact, instant, and sorcery spells your opponent's cast cost 1 more to cast. Not the biggest deal in the world, honestly. At the pre-release, that's almost nothing. Then -1 until end of turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to and dealt by target permanent and opponent controls. It kind of takes it out for 4 turns, but the games are so long. This really just isn't good at all. This would just slow a white deck down. You get more value out of like a 2 damage flyer for 3. I'm giving him a 2 out of 10. Next up, Watley, the Sun's Heart. So she's a 7 loyalty for 3, which is crazy. Hybrid, very nice. And each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Good luck ever getting that to benefit you in any way other than by sheer random chance. And then -3, you gain life equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control. Not terrible. I mean, your life total isn't like the most important thing in the world at the pre-release. Usually it's just somebody swinging away with something that you can't handle, and that wins. And if it takes them 2 more turns to win, then whatever. I mean, 2 more chances to, do something about it. But, I don't know. I mean, she'd be okay late game, and if somebody's dumb enough to swing at her, great. But honestly, in the average deck, in either of those colors, I would fully expect her to do more harm to your damage output than good. So since her passive ability does more harm than good and her activated ability doesn't really do anything to win the game, she's actually detrimental. I'm giving her a -1. Next up, Jaya, Venerated Fire Mage. 5 loyalty for 5, not bad. A single red, very easy. And if another red source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals that much damage +1 to that permanent or player. So that's anything. Spells, creatures, anything, but it only applies to red, and you're probably not going to get away with mono red. So not the greatest, but not terrible. Definitely not terrible. And then -2, she deals 2 damage to any target. Now that could be recurring removal or some kind of second main phase threat where they gotta think about it during blocking, or if they don't think about it during blocking, they just lost a creature. That merits putting her in a 2-color deck all day. I mean, she's good. I would probably give this an 8 out of 10. Next up, Jing Yingu or something like that. Wildcrafter with his cute little doggo. Obviously 11 out of 10 for having a dog in the art, but it's also a 3 loyalty for 3 mana, and his passive is each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it has tap, add 1 mana of any color, which by itself is pretty unlikely to ever work out, except that his -1 is put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Just making your creatures bigger over time is huge. Using that 3 times wouldn't be the end of the world. The ramp potential is insane since you could basically make use of both on the same turn. In other words, drop a counter on it, then tap it for mana. This is easily a 9 out of 10. Easily. Next up, Kaz Mina, Enigmatic Mentor. She's a 5 loyalty for 4, and spells your opponents cast that target a creature or planeswalker you control cost 2 more to cast. Not terrible. I mean, there are a lot of high cost removals, so if you tack 2 more onto that, yeah, that's going to get really annoying. And then -2, create a 2/2 blue wizard creature token, draw a card, then discard a card. Not bad, gets you to the cards you need. She's not the most outrageously good planeswalker I've seen, but I'll give her a solid 7 out of 10 because that's an okay ability. Next up, Kaia, Bane of the Dead. She does cost 6, but it's full hybrid, but if you're playing like red-black, coming up with triple black might not be the absolute most guaranteed thing in the world, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. And she does come up with 7 loyalty, which is pretty nuts. -3, exile target creature. Oh my god, recurring removal that's universal and doesn't kill it and it can't come back from the graveyard and you can use it at least twice. Are you kidding me? And then her passive is your opponents and permanents your opponents control with hexproof can be the target of spells and abilities you control as though they didn't have hexproof. I am not sure that there's more than 1 creature in this entire set that is hexproof, but it's nice. I'm even going to say 9 out of 10 only because it costs 6. If this cost like 5, absolutely easy 10 out of 10. Next up, Kiora, Behemoth Beckoner. She's a 7 loyalty for 3. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Immensely crazy powerful. It would be nice to build your whole deck around it, but if you just get a couple cards off it, so it's like, aha, a big threat, the biggest on the field, and now I'm drawing a card on top of it, watch out, and then -1 untap target permanent. It's giving pseudo-vigilance to whatever needs vigilance, basically, but it's also target permanent. Could be a land. So it's vigilance and ramp. I mean, she's easily a 9 out of 10. Next up, Nahiri, Stormstone. 4 cost, 6 loyalty, and as long as it's your turn, creatures you control have first strike and equip abilities you activate cost 1 less to activate. I don't remember there being 1 single piece of equipment in this entire set. Maybe there is, but hey, all of your creatures get first strike. You could just have 3 creatures and just sit on defense because they could send an 8/8 and you'll just triple first strike it and it'll die. And then guess what? -X deals X damage to target tapped creatures. So sort of removal that's somewhat reliable and works like 1 time. The problem is those abilities don't go together at all, but she's just so damn powerful I'm easily giving her a 9 out of 10 just on sheer goodness. Next up, Narset Parter Avails. She's a 5 loyalty for 3 double blue, though, and each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. I mean, yeah, shutting down additional draw would be nice. It's just not likely to ever come up at the pre-release, but, I mean, if it does once or twice, cool, so take it or leave it, whatever. But -2, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it in your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If you're playing blue, you're going to want creatures out. But if it's some kind of weird control archetype, you can go fetch more control. So in the right deck, this would be good, but generally not very. I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. Next up, it's Obnot Rakdos, the Hate Twisted. He's a 5 loyalty for 5 mana, and whenever an opponent draws a card, he deals 1 damage to that player. Classic ability that used to be, well, something similar on an emblem. And then -2, destroy target creature. Its controller draws 2 cards. That you really wouldn't want to do ever. Unless you are 100% certain that that's their biggest creature in their entire deck, you risk them getting something better or a control spell that gets rid of one of your creatures or giving them another combat trick because there's like 20 of them in the set. And for 5 mana to just ping them for 1 every turn, that's just not good enough. So despite basically being a recurring removal card, I'm still giving this a 2 out of 10. Next up, we got Healy, Professional Storyline Extra. She's a 3-cost 5 loyalty, very nice. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 servo. That's pretty nice, but you shouldn't have too many of them at the pre-release, so you won't get a lot of bang for your buck out of that. But -2, target artifact you control becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature you control until end of turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. So, if you have something amazing out, turn an artifact into something or the same thing. That scenario is very unlikely to happen, and if it does, it might be legendary. That would be bad. Also, your odds of just, in general, having the artifact out in the set are so low that you have to, like, get her out, then cast a non-creature spell, then bring something big out, then use her ability. It's so narrow, I'm giving her a 1 out of 10. Absolute trash. But in constructed, she's OP as balls. Next up, Samut Smash. It's a 5 for 4 deal, and creatures you control have haste. I mean, that's always nice. Just drop it in, immediate threat. 1 turn sooner, you got 1 turn jump on your opponent. Very nice. And then -1, target creature gains +2/+1 and gains haste, and then scry 1. Amazing. I mean, this is just creature boost. It's good, and it's not too expensive. 9 out of 10. Next up, Tatertots, the Shield Mage. It's a 5 for 3, which is nice. You have hexproof. Okay, I mean, that might come up. It's not amazingly likely. And then -2, create a shitty 0/3 wall. It has Defender, and you won't win the game with it, but it'll piss your opponent off and waste everybody's time. So, I don't know, you can stall with it. If you're playing enough Planeswalkers, this would be nice. So this is, once again, very situational, but I don't know. Would I mainboard him or would I put him in the sideboard? It's hard to say, but I think I got to give him like a 4 out of 10. Mostly because he does absolutely nothing, dead-ass nothing to win the game at all, in any way. Next up, D Wanderer, 5 loyalty for 4. Prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to you and other permanents you control. Well, nobody's playing Burn, so that one's out. And, okay, red-based assaults on your creatures, or maybe some kind of weird force fight thing. It's not impossible. I mean, some control/removal spells, I should say, will try to use non-combat damage. But then -2, exile target creature with power 4 or greater. Wow. I mean, if that never comes out, cool, they're probably not going to win then. So, like, if this completely is irrelevant in a game, good, that means they're not doing very well. If it is relevant, that means you can exile their 2 biggest creatures. Ouch. Next up, Tibbles, Perpetually Bad Planeswalker. 5 loyalty for 3, your opponents can't gain life. Cool, they probably weren't going to. And then -2, create a 1/1 Devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. Self-destructing gimmick, you can only do it twice, and his ability sucks. Typical Tibble, 2 out of 10. Next up, we got Frasca, and she's a 5 loyalty for 4, hybrid, very nice. And whenever a creature you control with Death Touch, so good luck with that, deals damage to a player or planeswalker, put a 1/1 counter on it. Yeah, you'll never, ever have that happen, ever. But her -2 does bring out a 1/1 black assassin creature token with Death Touch, and whenever this creature deals damage to a planeswalker, destroy that planeswalker. What? And then those are the only creatures you're ever going to get that qualify for the top. So, pretty darn good. It's a little slow, it's a little situational, but it flows. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. So that's it for the common Planeswalkers. Let's move on to the rares. So first we've got a Johnny, and remember the rare Planeswalkers have a plus and a minus abilities, some of which resemble alts, but not many. So the problem with the Ajani the Greathearted is he's 2 colors, so good luck just randomly playing those colors, and if you pull an Ajani, don't play those 2 colors just because you pulled an Ajani. So the playability already, there goes 5 points out of 10, but creatures you control have Vigilance, that's nice, that's cool. +1, you gain 3 life. Okay, doing that over and over and over while adding to his loyalty will be absolutely batshit crazy. And then -2, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. What? And a loyalty counter on each other planeswalker you control. That gives him about 15 more back, which I believe puts him at, well, it depends where you start him, but I'm going to say 20 out of 10. All right, so reasonably playability-wise, he gets a 1 out of 10 because you're never going to play those colors. It's a ridiculously unlikely shot. But if you can put him in your deck because you are legitimately playing those colors for actual reasons, 20 out of 10. When this hits the battlefield, if they don't directly blow him up, you win. Next up, Shaundra Fire Artisan, 4 for 4. Double red though, and whenever 1 or more loyalty counters are removed from Shaundra, she deals that much damage to target opponent or planeswalker, so using a negative ability or being hit. Then +1, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. Very, very, very nice ability, plus it's a plus. And then -7, exile the top 7 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Okay. And then, by the way, they take 7 damage. Something does. This is just amazingly good. Just game-dominating good. I'm going to say 9 out of 10. Next up, we've got Dome Reed, the idiot who sided with Bolas and is dead now because of it and definitely deserves it. Once again, 2 colors, so astronomically unlikely odds that your pools are, like your red pool and your green pool, are the 2 legitimately best pools. So getting past that, creatures you control get +1/+0 permanently. That's crazy. +1, add 1 of either color mana listed there. Creatures spells you cast can't be countered. They probably weren't going to be, but okay. I mean, whatever. And then -2, target creature you control fights target creature you don't. So this is recurring removal with a plus ability. A little bit of ramp and attack boost. So, oh boy, I'm going to say 1 out of 10 because of his colors. And then if you can put him in your deck, oh, easy 10 out of 10. This card's crazy. Next up, Jayce, Lover of Puzzles. He's triple blue out of a 4 cost, so good luck with that. But he comes out with 4 loyalty, and he's just a glorified mill engine. So it's a win con, but it doesn't support the rest of your deck. Nobody's putting together a mill deck in the set. So if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. Okay, I mean, nice little insurance policy for Jayce versus Jayce mirror matches. And +1, target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard, draw a card. I mean, the draw a card part is exceptional. You'll be outdrawing them 2 to 1. That almost makes up for the fact that this card's otherwise a complete potato. And then -8, which is really damn hard to get off. Draw 7 cards. Then if your library has no cards in it, you win the game. That's just weird. So milling them out with the +1 is going to take forever. But outdrawing them 2 to 1 is absolutely insane. But that cost is so unfriendly to a 2-cost deck. Oh, I don't know. But that ability, though. I mean, you outdrawing them 2 to 1 permanently, and then the -8 possibility. Oh, man. I'll say 6 out of 10, but boy, I'm not firm on that. Next up, Karn, the Great Creator. Obviously, bonus points for fitting into literally any deck at all. Activated abilities of artifacts your opponent's control can't be activated. They don't have any, so that's fine. I don't remember if crewing is an ability because there's a bunch of vehicles. Who knows? Fun, great. And then +1 until your next turn, up to 1 target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness, each equal to its converted mana cost, which you are never going to make use of ever. And -2, you may choose an artifact card you own from outside the game or in exile, reveal that card, and put it in your hand. Kind of interesting. Won't resurrect it from the graveyard, but pretty much useless, and useless. So I'm going to say 0 out of 10. And that's due almost exclusively to, besides doing basically nothing, there being next to no artifacts in this set. Next up, we got Nissan Leaf, who shakes and should probably be brought in for maintenance. She's a 5 cost for 5, which is a little high, but whenever you tap a forest for mana, add an additional green. What? Problem is, if you got the 5 to bring her out, you probably don't need that much more. But then we got her +1, which is put 3 1/1 counters on up to 1 target non-creature land you control, untap it. It becomes a 0/0 elemental creature, so it stops being non-creature. With vigilance and haste, that's still a land. So you can't stack up and go 6 next turn, and a 3/3 ain't gonna win, and if they remove it, you're down a land. So, I don't know. 3/3s probably aren't going to win the game. Then she gets a -8 with you get an emblem, so it is a true alt. With lands you control have indestructible. Search your library for any number of forest cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. But you'll have to keep +1ing her to make them actually useful. So she's just overall not that great. You probably don't need that level of ramp that late into the game. You probably don't want to get your lands killed. 3/3s aren't going to win, and her -8 isn't that great. Just because you probably don't have a way to spend all that mana, I'm going to give her a 2 out of 10. She's just not good. Next up, Ravel, the card that will be banned. We've got a 4 loyalty for 4. It's mixed colors, so once again, you're never going to get those colors ever. It's never going to happen. Just give up. And whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, he deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker, and you do not win pre-release games with instants and sorceries. Then he's got +2, scry 1. I mean, that's cool, and it's +2. But then -2, whenever you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Unfortunately, that would go the best with black or white, which he isn't. So it's going to be hard to get anything out of that. I'm just going to say he's so broken and overpowered and unfair in standard constructed, but his usefulness is next to nothing at the pre-release. So I'm giving him a 1 out of 10. And since he's 2 color, I'm lowering it to -5. Next up, we got Wang from the channel Wang on YouTube, which you should definitely check out. So Wang, the Dragon Rider here, he costs 5 and he comes out with 5, cool. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, each dragon you control deals 1 damage to that creature. You aren't going to have any dragons. And then +1 until end of turn, each planeswalker you control becomes a dragon, a 4/4 flying dragon. So that's neat, but I mean, good luck. And then -3, create a dragon. Straight up, but you can do that 1 time. I mean, the +1, though, you can do it over and over and over. So in a longer game, if you can protect them that long, it's going to get out of control real quick. Then the attack deterrent keeps getting worse, but I don't know. This late into the game, by the time you have 5, I don't know if you can keep him alive that long. So, I mean, but oh boy, if he runs out of control, it will be overwhelming and he will single-handedly win the game. So I will give him a 7. Next up, Sorin, Vengeful Bloodlord, 4 for 4, dual color, so dream on. And as long as it's your turn, creatures and planeswalkers you control have lifelink. That is absurdly overpowered. Then we got +2. He deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. Remember, he has lifelink, so in other words, you gain 1 life. And he can nick a planeswalker without having to do anything. Then -X, return target creature card with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature is a vampire in addition to its other types. Exceptionally good to bring something big back, assuming you +2'd him a couple times, which of course you did. I mean, it's not overwhelming. It's not a runaway cascading trigger thing. It's not just, oh, I'm boosting attack across the board. But that lifelink ability is nuts, and with that -X, you wouldn't be too scared to get something killed because you can just automatically bring it back next turn. It gains you life. Boy. I guess if I factor in the colors, he's probably still at a 0. But if you're able to play him, I'll say 7. Next up, Tamio Collector of absolutely nothing because his card's unplayable trash. 2 color, one of them's blue. Good freaking luck. Then we got spells and abilities your opponent's control can't cause you to discard cards to sacrifice permanents. Cool, there's like 2 that do that, so good luck with that. +1, choose a non-land card name, then reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all cards with the chosen name from among them into your hand and the rest into the graveyard. You just milled yourself for 4. There is no way in hell you're naming something that's actually there. And if you do by some miracle name it, your opponent's going to accuse you of cheating. So, -3, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Wow, that's an expensive return card from your graveyard to your hand. But there's no restriction. So it doesn't have to be a spell or a creature. It could be either or. Or an enchantment, an aura, whatever. So, very overpriced for what it does. She's just bad. -1 out of 10. Oh, -10 out of 10 considering the colors. Then we got Teferi, Time Raveler, whatever, I don't care. Screw this guy. I hate him. So each opponent can cast spells only any time they could cast a sorcery. So for the rest of the game, they are literally incapable of casting a counter spell at all. Nothing you cast on your turn can be disrupted or affected in any way by anything except for, like, the Siren and its ability. Luckily, this is 1000% irrelevant at the pre-release. So it's +1, utterly useless. Until your next turn, you may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash. Who cares? You probably don't even have that many in your deck. And it's not sorcery speed spells, it's literally sorceries. So you can't just flash in your creatures. Then -3, return up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment to its owner's hand, draw a card. So you can do that one time. They're just going to recast it, and you can't do that as like a saving thing at instant speed. So I'm giving him a -100 because he's Teferi and he's utterly useless. And I can't wait for them to ban him because he's going to be unbelievably annoying in literally anything. Next up, Coogan the Ineffable, 6 cost, any color, any deck. Oh my gosh. So colorless spells you cast cost 2 less, which there's almost none in this entire set. So a lot of mileage there. 6 is a little high, by the way. And +1, exile the top card of your library face down and look at it. Create a 2/2 colorless spirit creature token when that token leaves the battlefield. So in other words, pretty much when it dies. Put the exiled card into your hand, and then you might be able to cast it later. Very odd, very roundabout, but you're creating an infinite army of tokens that when they die, you draw a card. I mean, that's pretty good. And then -3, destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Sure. This would be a 9 out of 10, but that's 6 cost. But then again, it's uncolored. Oh, I gotta give it an 8 though. I have to. Screw it, 8.5. I told myself I wouldn't do it, but it's getting an 8.5. Next up, Vivienne, who don't need no man. We got a 4 loyalty for 3, not bad. You may cast creature spells as though they had flash. Well, I mean, that's neat. It's kind of like having haste, except that you have to leave the mana open from your previous turn to flash it in during your opponent's end step, and then attack with it immediately on your turn. And +1 until your next turn, up to 1 target creature gains vigilance and reach. I mean, that's cool, I guess. And then -2, look at the top 3 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. For as long as it remains exiled, you may look at that card and you may cast it if it's a creature card. Creature specific draw is not bad. She'll protect herself and any other planeswalkers with her +1. She's just solid, so I'll give her a 6 out of 10. I mean, nothing too special, but whatever. And that's the end of the rares, so let's move on to the mythics, which, if I recall, are going to be pretty damn high rated. Okay, so first we've got Gideon Blackblade. 3 cost, but double white for 4 loyalty, not terrible, and he's always a 4/4 human soldier with indestructible. A 4/4 permanently indestructible for 3 at the pre-release. I wonder what I'm going to rate this. Also, he can't be damaged in any way, so that's great. +1, up to 1 other target creature you control gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Indestructible till end of turn. That's insane. And then -6, exile target non-land permanent to get rid of literally anything on the entire battlefield that isn't a land. Easy 10 out of 10. All day, every day. Hell, I'll give it an 11. Why not? Next up, Liliana, Dreadhorde General. Now, this is a 6 cost, 6 loyalty for 6. But I mean, if you can get her out, she's pretty much worth it. So whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. That's crazy. It doesn't even deal damage to you, unlike that other card, Midnight, whatever the hell. +1, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So that's just solid. Just sit there and pump out 1 creature every turn, guaranteed. -4, each player sacrifices 2 freaking creatures. Unfortunately, that includes you, but if you've been +1ing her, who cares? And then -9, each opponent chooses a permanent they control of each permanent type and then sacrifices the rest. And that doesn't include you. So that's just pretty much game ending. Yeah, you read that correctly. They'll be left with 1 land. The game is over. If you can -9 her, the game is absolutely 1000% over. So, I mean, 6, though, that really honestly knocks her down to a 9. But she's so oppressively game-ending. Screw it, I'm giving her a 9.5 out of 10. I mean, you could legitimately lose by having her in your opening hand, but then wanting to keep it because it's her. And she's not colorless, she doesn't have hybrid mana, so it's a little tight. Next up, Nicol Bolas Dragon God. I'm going to go ahead and drop it straight to a 0 out of 10 because of that casting cost. You are never going to cast that at a pre-release, not in a million years. 3 color in the mid ones triple. Good freaking luck. He has all loyalty abilities of all other planeswalkers on the battlefield. Who cares? You're probably not going to have that many, and neither are your opponents. +1, draw a card. Each opponent exiles a card from their hand or a permanent they control, which there's going to be tons of extraneous ones, a lot of lands, so that's not that great, and that's his only plus. -3, destroy target creature, planeswalker. I mean, okay, but that'll leave them at 1 loyalty, so that better be the last one they own. And then -8, each opponent who doesn't control a legendary creature or planeswalker loses the game. That's pretty significant, but you gotta get to it +1 at a time, so, I mean, to call this unplayable would be generous. -10 out of 10. If you pull one, great, sell them for like $30, but just don't even try to make this happen. Just do not put them in your deck. And oops, that is the last one because Tezzeret, Jayce, and Gideon are all not in the pre-release kits. Gideon and Jayce are from the Planeswalker decks, and Tezzeret is the buy box promo. So that is the roundup. As you can see, it's very hit or miss. There's a couple in the middle that are like, maybe it'll help you a little bit. It'd be kind of neat to throw out. I mean, it's probably better than half the cards in your deck. But for the most part, it's just absolutely yes dominates or wow, very situational. And I'm not saying they're badly designed cards or that they should have changed anything. It's just they're meant for constructed. They have very specific uses. And in some cases, that just isn't limited fighting. So hopefully this guide gave you a really, really good concept of how to tell if they're good or not, instead of just, remembering which ones are good or which ones aren't, or making a list, or nah. That's why I included extensive, why I came to the conclusions that I did. So don't try to force something. Don't add it to your deck just because it's a planeswalker. And don't base the colors of your deck on some hyper-powerful planeswalker. It's only one card out of the 40. What if it ends up in the bottom 10 of your deck? You're never going to see it in that game. And then, whoops, the entire rest of your deck is weaker than it should be, instead of your, hyper-consistent other color you should have went with. That said, if you have a pool like my Eldritch Moon pool, where it was just a bunch of counter spells and draw and scry and removal, and everything else was garbage except for a foil Gisela, I played the most narrow duck and cover deck you've ever seen in your entire life, and every game she came out, I won, and every game she didn't, I lost. I would just go through my deck at breakneck speed and just get her out, and then I think I had 4 copies of, Turn Aside or whatever, which is a 1-cost blue counterspell that counters a spell that targets a creature, or not a creature, a permanent I control. So, I mean, if you got to go with an all-in win condition with a couple, 1 or 2 hyper-powerful cards, then go for it and just cover it. That's a duck and cover deck. Traditionally, the duck is a flying creature. That's why it's called that. But, it could be a planeswalker. But like I said, if it's in the bottom even 20 of your deck, it's pretty much an automatic loss. If you got a bad pool, it's probably just a better idea to go 3-color. But then if you're going 3-color, might as well throw in the 2-color planeswalker if it's on color, which in that case, it's much more likely to be. So don't force it, but don't abandon it. Don't be too afraid to include it because your deck is garbage anyway. And most importantly, have fun. It's not always about winning. It's about making Magic look fun and you yourself having fun regardless of your pool or the outcome. And most importantly, getting people to come back, to come to F&M because the people there are nice. It's a fun game to play. And they're like, I need to do this more often than 4 times a year. Although, I don't know if you've seen the War of the Spark spoilers, but the game's going to be an unplayable, unfun, shit-tastic shitfest for, when's rotation? Well, then again, this would have to rotate out. 1.5 years from now, they're going to have to ban a dozen cards if they want to have any customers left. At this point, if they banned Izzet Drakes, Esper Control, Mono Blue, and Red Rush, and White or White-Red Hybrid Blitz, if they banned every single one of those decks into unplayability, I still feel like there's some hyper-powerful cards that would ruin Standard, but we'd be back to a normal Standard. Right now, they cranked it up past 11, broke the knob off, got some players, and just cranked it up to who the hell knows. That's where the power level's at right now, people. If you disagree, you say I'm being overly negative for no reason and I'm wrong, I don't give a shit. I'll talk to you in a month. We'll see what happens because I've been here before. I've seen situations like this before. People said that Eldrazi and Modern weren't as bad as it looked. Tons of people said that, and tons of people were absolutely talking out of their ass. You might as well just tell new people not to come back. So on that positive note, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.